Hey there. Welcome to Web Lecture 4.1. This is the first web lecture of the new unit, Unit 4, and we're going to talk about tonight the idea of political ideology. So I have this question: what is your political ideology? And in order to answer that, we have to answer a few questions first. First question we have to answer is, what is ideology? We're going to look in depth at what that is particularly, and then the two sides of ideology that we usually refer to, and that's the liberal and conservative side. Then we're going to look at what it means to be liberal and conservative, or left and right on the political spectrum. And then we're going to look at the political parties that align themselves with the left and right, or liberal and conservative parts of the political spectrum. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to take a little quiz that will help you determine what your political ideology is. So let's get started. So as I said, the question here today is, what is your political ideology? So what is ideology exactly? If we look at the definition, ideology is a systematic set of values that enables a person to view policy issues in a consistent way. So basically that says that an ideology is giving you the opportunity to look at specific issues, and you can take those issues and you can use your ideology to determine which side of the issue you're going to be on. So this gives you sort of a shortcut to determine where you're going to fall on a particular issue. And this is helpful if you are not particularly well informed about an issue, or it helps sort of give you a guide for where you want to be on that issue if you view other things consistently in a conservative or a liberal bias. Now, in order to figure out what your ideology is, or know what it means to be conservative or liberal, we have to sort of look at what that means. So that'll be the next step. So in the United States, we're usually split between this liberal and conservative ideology. Liberal being on the left and conservative being on the right. And when I say left and right, I'm talking about where they appear on the political spectrum, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is usually where people see themselves, either on the left or on the right. If you are liberal in the United States, you are more in line usually with the Democratic Party, and the symbol for the Democratic Party is the donkey. So being liberal means that you usually value equality, and that equality is supported by certain institutions, in particular the government, and the government for a liberal is there to work toward that equality and to defend against extreme economic inequality. So it's trying to level the playing field economically. Liberals usually believe that liberty exists when you have access to the basic necessities that you need, so education, healthcare, and they want for opportunity to be there for everyone. And so, therefore, they feel oftentimes it is the government's responsibility to do that. And as I said before, liberals typically are associated with the Democratic Party because that is the party that most likely has these same values. Now, if you are conservative, you will be in line, with the Republican Party usually, and the Republican Party symbol is the elephant. And what that means to be conservative is that your philosophy promotes the maintenance of a traditional institution, or what is the status quo. And usually, most conservatives do not want any kind of societal change, and if they do, they want to keep that change to a minimum or to make it very gradual. Typically, conservatives also support less government intervention, particularly in the economy, but also oftentimes in other parts of society. And usually in the United States, conservatives align themselves with the Republican Party. So that's what it means to be liberal and conservative. Now, if we look at the left and the right, what that means, we're going to need to look at the political spectrum. Now, this is a very complicated version of the political spectrum. I'll show you a simpler version in a minute. But as you can see here, we have the left, and the parties that align themselves with the left are the Democrats. In the United States, in England, they have what's called the Labour Party. That's also on the left, and oftentimes if you go to the far left, you'll get to the Communist Party, and somewhere in between there usually is sort of a socialist party as well. Over here on the right, in the United States, we have the Republican Party, and in England they have what's called the Conservative, and then oftentimes in other countries there are the nationalist parties that are on the right side of the political spectrum. Now, let's look at the left for a minute and talk about what a lot of their beliefs are. So, they believe that the government should be involved a lot in society and in the social lives of the people. As far as the sort of characteristics of somebody that is on the left, they oftentimes may have some sort of a vocation that is more creative. So teachers, scientists, professors, architects, people in the media typically are more on the left or are more liberal. Oftentimes this sort of permeates someone's entire life. So maybe sometimes their family upbringing will be a little bit different, as you can sort of look through here. Their views on religion and rights and criminals oftentimes will be a little bit different, so they'll be a little less traditional when it comes to religion. They believe that rights are for everyone to observe, and oftentimes they look at crime and see the issues of society, not necessarily the issues of the individual. Now, also when it comes to government involvement, particularly in the military, people on the left oftentimes prefer sort of a diplomatic approach or a peaceful approach. Oftentimes they're called doves. And so this is sort of a very very basic description of sort of liberals or the left side. Now, if we look at the right side of the United States, or a conservative perspective, usually there is a desire to have less interference with society and the lives of the people. If you look at some of their careers, typically that are more conservative, you look at police officers, people in the military, stockbrokers, judges, things of that nature. There's a different sort of idea of the family. So a stricter parent, maybe more self-reliance as the ideal. Their beliefs on religion are going to be more traditional. Rights, make sure that others do not interfere with your rights, and oftentimes they see that people that are criminals choose to be criminals, or it's more about the responsibility of the individual. When it comes to military, oftentimes conservatives are a little more aggressive, want a more militant way, and usually those people are known as hawks, so people that are more military focused. That's a very basic thumbnail sketch of what it means to be liberal or conservative, or be on the left or the right of the political spectrum. Now, as I said, this really gives you a lot of information to look at for the political spectrum. But if we want to sort of simplify the political spectrum a little bit, we'll move to this one, because this lays out the specific political parties and where they stand on the political spectrum. So here we have the center, we have the left over here, and we have the right over here. Now, when it comes to this political spectrum and the political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, those are the ones that we associate with in the United States. The Democrats over here on the left, Republicans over here on the right. Now, usually most people in the United States fall somewhere between, really, the Democrats and the Republicans. A large majority of the people in the United States fall right here in the middle. That's where most people are on the political spectrum. You don't have a lot of people that are over here on the far left or on the far right. As you see here, you even have a designation on this political spectrum of the Tea Party. You can see they're even a little bit further to the right than Republicans. And then you have the idea of socialism, particularly that you'll find in European countries and in Canada, which is further to the left than are the Democrats. Now, if you look at the far ends of the political spectrum, you'll see that that is where the radicals lie. And a radical believes in rapid change and would support an extreme solution. And this is the case for radicals on the left and for radicals on the right. So if we look at the radical left, you're looking at communism, particularly the far left. That's what you're going to find. And if you look at the radical right, you're looking at anarchy. Now, when I say anarchy, I don't mean like chaotic anarchy. What I'm talking about here is a complete lack of government. Now, the interesting thing about the left and the right radical extremes is both of those types of ideology look for, as their ideal, no government. The idea of communism is that everybody is equal, and with everybody equal and working together, then government eventually falls out and you don't need any government, even though here on this political spectrum it says that there's more state control, which is what you have at first in a communist government, but eventually you lose the government. And the same thing with anarchy. Obviously it says here less state control, and the idea of anarchy is to have no government. So really, when you go to the far ends of the political spectrum, what you get is sort of like, instead of just a straight line, you kind of get this odd circle where they both want no government. Now it's your turn. I want you to find out what your political ideology is and where you fall on the political spectrum. So go to this website. You can just cut and paste it out of this presentation and take the little quiz, and this will give you an idea of where you fall on the political spectrum. So answer the questions, and good luck, and you can report on where you are when you come to class.